Welcome everybody to this masterclass on fabulous business case we're organizing today. For those who don't know me, my name is Clara Diebold from AC3A and I will be hosting today's event. First thing, I would like to thank Hélène, Catherine and Gabrielle who are here today and who did a brilliant job organizing this masterclass dedicated to innovative business models with FAB-measures. I would also like to thank the Interreg Northwest Europe program for funding this event through the FABulous Farmers project. So before we start, I would just like to draw the attention of the audience that we will be recording the session for communication purpose. Name of the people attending the event will not appear in the recording. But unless you are the one speaking, please just mute your microphone to avoid any disturbance during the session. As I said, this masterclass has been organized in the framework of the Interreg Northwest Europe FABulous Farmers project. This European project has been designed to support farmers in the transition towards more agroecological practices on their farms. It started in January 2019 and will be over at the end of the year. It gathered 15 project partners from 6 countries in Northwest Europe and 14 pilot sites with a total budget of 7.4 million euros. So that was for the big numbers. About the objectives of the project, it aims to reduce reliance on external inputs like chemical fertilizers and plant protection products by encouraging the use of measures and intervention that increase the farm's functional agrobiodiversity through what we call FAB measures. So what are FAB measures? They are elements of biodiversity that provide ecosystem services which support sustainable agricultural productivity, while also delivering benefits to the environment and society as a whole. To promote FAB, a diversity of FAB measures can be implemented in the field. These measures are targeted to increase specific elements of the biodiversity in and around the field to improve pollination, pest management, soil and water quality on the farmland. So far, we've listed 10 FAB measures in the project we've been working on. They are crop rotation, mixed crops, field margin management, cover crops, organic manure input, no or low tillage manure quality, hedgerow management, and agroforestry. There is a final one, which is more of a FAB supporting measure, you can see in the corner. It's use of physical and biological crop protection. And if you want to know more about these FAB measures, you can find more detailed information on the fabulousfarmers.eu website of the project. So with the help of the 14 pilot sites across Northwest Europe, the partners worked in different work packages. First one was about to collect and share knowledge on the WOCAT platform. Second one is to collaborate and exchange between farmers in the pilot regions to widen the uptake of FAB solution by farmers through demonstration. Third one was to embed FAB in the local society through facilitation of relevant stakeholder groups. These are the people very happy on the slide. And we have a fourth technical work package that started in 2021 with the capitalization call of Interreg Northwest Europe. And this work package is focusing on the speed up of economic valorization and uptake of FAB measures by the farmers. And finally, we have 2 work packages on long-term effects and communication. So today, this masterclass will focus on an activity we conducted in the work package long-term of the project, which is innovative business case inspired from experimentations led in the pilot regions of the project. These business cases are examples of how a farmer can create added economical and environmental value to the farm and the society through FAB measures. We gathered with the partners about 12 business cases that will be very soon available on the FABulous Farmers website. And now that I reminded you the framework in which this event has been organized, let's talk about the program. So I will start myself the presentation with 3 business cases inspired from Western France. Then I will hand over the floor to my partners. First, Ine from Belgium, then Michel from Luxembourg, and finally David from the UK. We will finish with a video prepared by Jerry from the UK, who could not join us today. And we kept the best for the end. Catherine and Helen will show you the amazing artwork they have done, transforming the business case into beautiful infographics. For the audience, if you have questions, you can ask them anytime in the chat box of Team, and we will have a dedicated Q&A session to wrap up the webinar. So, as I say, I will start with business case from Western France. They have been tested in regions like Brittany, Normandy, and Pays de la Loire. The first one I want to talk about is about carbon sequestration in hedgerows. In this one, carbon credits are sold to companies thanks to hedgerows as a FAB solution. Basically, volunteer farmers can certify carbon credits thanks to a methodology approved by the state, and that is specific to hedgerows sustainable management. The carbon credits has been here sold to the company MBPAC, specializing in the distribution of packaging for the food industry. They have an objective to offset their greenhouse gases emissions by storing carbon in the hedgerows of several farms. Very concretely, for the committed farmers, this consists in conducting diagnosis of the hedges and a sustainable management plan of the trees. The latter provides interventions to be carried out on the entire hedge line, like planting, pruning, replanting. In return, they receive remuneration from MBPAC according to the quantities of carbon stored in the trees. The Solenat Association is acting as an intermediary between the farmers and the company. They accompany the farmer in the project, monitor them, report back to the company, ensuring trust in the contract to both parties. The first partnership signed concerns a quantity of 40 tons of carbon per year, and it shall be reproduced in the future with other regional company. So basically, this business model I showed you can store 3 to 5 tons of carbon per kilometer of hedges, and these quantities depends on the type of hedge. And the farmer can get a revenue going from 80 up to 150 euros per ton of carbon stored. Second business model is still about hedgerows management as a FAB measure, but this time it's not valued with carbon credits, but directly through the wood produced by the trees. This wood can be valued by the farmer either as self-used as a litter for pigs or calf, or as mulch in the fields, or as energy wood to warm, for example, a poultry building. It can also be sold to companies or municipalities and be transformed into pellets for energy production, to heat up, for example, a local swimming pool. This has been done in Brittany, or the senior residence of the city, providing consequent economies of energies for the municipality. So as you can see, this is a great economic potential for, as this business model has great potential in context of energy crisis. But from the SWOT analysis conducted, it still needs to be structured and be more competitive to the cheaper foreign wood. Actually, wood can be sold between 52 euros per ton of wet wood chips up to 98 euros for the driest. And it can cover up to 85% of heating needs, for example, for a swimming pool. On the market, at the time we wrote the business model, a stair of wood was sold between 40 and 120 euros. And the last business case I wanted to present is this time about reduced tillage, cover crops, and crops rotation as FAB measures. So these combined FAB measures in the field allow to improve the water quality by reducing nitrate loss up to 90%. They also allow to store more carbon and improve functional biodiversity of these ecosystems, but obviously they come with a cost for the farmers in terms of manpower, plant material, equipment, fertilizers, or biocides. And these costs have been covered by PES schemes in which the farmer engage. They commit for 6 to 7 years with, for example, a water agency financing the cost of the measures and providing new revenue for the farmer. If you're interested in this business model, it has been developed and tested in the watershed Lacoduc in Brittany in the framework of an Interreg Channel C CPS project. And results are also available on their website. So it's finished for my business case, and I will hand over the floor to Ina. Thank you for listening to me.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Clara. I will present the fourth business case. I am Ine de Rol from Boerennatuur Vlaanderen, so from Belgium, and our business case is from Brewery, Drie Fonteinen, so three fountains in English, if I translate well, but that's just the name of the brewery. It's an organic brewery producing Geuze beers, and the special thing about the brewery is that they have a typical contract with the farmers who deliver wheat and so on, and barley to produce their beer. So the region where it is located is in the Pajottenland in Belgium. So the brewery has a contract with a couple of farmers who deliver barley and wheat to the brewery, and those farmers are all organic farmers. They at first it was not mandatory, but then they decided that they wanted all the farmers to be organic. So since a couple of years, everyone made the transition. The FAB measures these farmers implement are quite a wide range of FAB measures. So one of the farmers has a flower strip installed within the project of FABulous Farmers. Other farmers do crop rotation, agroforestry, cover crops, non-inversion tillage, and organic farming in general. So these farmers apply different kind of FAB measures. Then I will get back to the money they get for their wheat and barley. And so why do we present this business case? It's because they have a typical contract with the farmers, so it's a hybrid contract. The farmers who deliver wheat and barley both get a price per cultivated area and a price per yield that they deliver. You can go to the next slide. Yes, thank you. So I put some more information here. So I'll start at the top again. So the farmers delivering to the brewery are organized in a learning network. And within this learning network, they exchange information on the FAB measures they implement and so on. And also other farmers that are not organic and not delivering to the brewery are within this learning network. And so, yeah, they exchange experience on FAB-measures. So that's a learning network. And now I'll get back to the model. So as I said, the farmers get a price per area that they cultivate. This is because, yeah, in a year with a very bad yield, the farmers wouldn't get a lot of money, or they wouldn't make profit from their practices. So that's why the brewery wanted to have a base price per area that has been cultivated. But if you only pay them for the area, they have no incentive to try to do as good as they can, and to try to reach high yields. And that's why they also get a bonus price per per ton per yield, for the amount of yield they have. And then you see 3 types in the columns presented there. So each type is for a different kind of cereal varieties. So they have modern cereal varieties, which usually get high yields, and these are available at all seed traders. There are low risks with these modern varieties, and farmers usually have a lot of experience with it, and therefore the basis price is a bit lower, but as the yields is usually quite high, in total they get about 2,500 euros per hectare. And then you have type 2 and 3, which are older varieties of cereals. And with these older varieties, usually farmers have little experience. The yields are often a bit lower, and there are often more risks. So that's why for type 2 and 3, the base price is a bit higher than for type 1, which is a modern variety. But as the yields are often lower for these varieties, the bonus price is then a bit lower for these farmers, and then in total the price they get per area is the same as for the modern varieties. And in that way they want to try and test older varieties again of cereals. And so that's about the brewery. So this is it for me. And I forgot who's next.
Next is Michel from Luxembourg.
Yes, hello. Yes, I will present one business case from Luxembourg. I guess it's quite close to the third one of Clara. So it's we work in the water protection in the Lac de la Haute-Sur here in Luxembourg. And the idea is to fund innovative soil tillage systems. And the money comes from the water consumer. So for each liter of water sold by the water syndicate, a certain amount is put into a bucket, and with this bucket, some innovative techniques can be tried out. What we did here is we had the rotary tiller. As in Luxembourg, we have quite a lot of cows. We have grass clover for 3 years, and we are looking for techniques to do the grass clover termination without glyphosate and to be less soil disturbing as possible. So we went for the rotary tiller, which works very shallow. So it's set to 3 to 5 centimeter deep. And so we tried this machine, and the field trials were paid by the water syndicate. And as we found out that it works well, it went to the next step, and the farmers got paid the additional expenses they had by adopting this technique. So we have some contractors who own a rotary tiller, and the farmers pay the contractor, but they get some money back from this water fund. Yes, and at the moment the farmers are not so happy with the amount they get back. So the actual costs they have are higher than the fund is paying. Yes, I hope this was clear.
Thank you very much, Michelle. Next is David.
Hello, I'm David Hassel from National Trust. So I'll just present a business case from the east of England, and this is farmers working directly with retailers to differentiate their product and attract a price premium as part of it. The example that I've used is from a company called Hodmedod's. Now they're a grain and pulse food processor and retail. They also sell some to wholesale as well. The farmers Hodmedod's work really closely to help with the marketing, and it's very important to them that they have sustainable farming practices in, and that's part of the commitment you get when you pay the premium for their products. So by adopting FAB measures, the farmer is able to tap into that network and to attract those prices. Now, using these methods, as we all know, reduces pest control costs, but you also, as being part of the kind of community of farmers that supply these wholesalers and retailers, we kind of all work together. And we all know, and we talk about these different novel crops and novel varieties that the customers want from Hodmedod's. And we all work together to develop the best practice of how to grow these. And it's a really good support network and a kind of a club that you become part of when you start selling to them. In turn, because you're working directly with the retailer, when you have bad years, farmers report that they're able to negotiate prices up to help cover their costs, and it makes their businesses more resilient to risk. And this is because the retailer has that direct connection. There's more of the value chain actually kept within a smaller number of parties, but also they can actually explain the impacts of last year's heat, for example, on crop yields, and actually explain that to the customer and ask them to help support and take on some of that cost burden rather than all the risks sitting squarely with the farmer. And this is only possible because they also care that FAB measures are implemented on the farm. So a specific example on this was lentils grown at Rectory Farm. It was the first time that they'd ever grown lentils. And they're quite an unusual crop, a bit like peas in a way in their habit and their growing. And it took a lot of advice, they say, to actually make them a success. The yields were quite low in the first year because of storms in August, flattening the crop and then making harvest very difficult, and so more drop than you would want really from a crop. But then actually they were paid an increased premium of 30%, reported by the retailer to help support them in their transition towards adopting this greater crop rotation, which now will include lentils going forward. A really beneficial business case, and all parties very happy. Thank you.
Thank you very much, David. For the next part, so it will be a video from Jerry, who couldn't join us today.
Hello, I'm Jerry Alford from the Soil Association. This presentation shows you 3 business cases for FAB practices from the UK. The first case is one of carbon capture from an organisation called Green Farm Collective. This supports the FAB practices of reduced tillage, of cover crops, of organic matter input, reduction in use of plant protection products. It is also, through a biodiversity option, supports field margin management, hedgerow management, and semi-natural landscape elements. This works in 2 ways. With the carbon from named farms will be sold by the ton annually through a named broker. The carbon stocks are determined by a calculator based on estimated carbon sequestration by standard logarithms, and there's very little verification and evidence behind this. The biodiversity investments will be available, and these will be through increased farming practices. We're sold on an annual agreement in multiples of 3 meters squared, which will be geotagged. The payments received will be dependent on the cost of the action, but they will be based around environmentally sensitive broadacre farmland, which will include grazed mown grassland as well as arable ground, and needs to be managed sustainably to encourage soil health in line with the Green Farm collective farming policy. So second option is to enhance biodiversity, which includes the field margins, hedges, ponds and wildflower areas. Effectively, the protocols is through the contract commits the farm to a fixed period of not ploughing, use of cover crops and returning straw as chopped in return for carbon offset payments. With the biodiversity payments, these offsets sell the story of a farm moving from an intensive to a more environmentally friendly farming systems. This is compatible with the new UK public money for public goods schemes, which supports for farming practices rather than just as the old BPS payment just for ownership of land. In an example in the UK, one similar farmer has earned £25,000 per year from his 800-hectare arable system by growing cover crops and returning all straw grown as chopped straw. The second business case we're talking about is one known as Jordan Cereals in the UK. Jordans are a UK cereal food producer, and the FAB practices supported by this are mixed crops and rotations, hedgerow management, field margin management, reduction in the use of plant protection products, and an element of semi-natural landscape protection as a consequence of the requirements of the scheme. Under the scheme, all farms who supply Jordan cereals with oats, in the UK name is oats, also known as Hafer of Avoine in France, for granola, cereals and bars, to ensure that at least 10% of their land is managed for wildlife. Farmers involved in this are supported with advisor from a national charity to make sure the actions carried out are correct for the farm and the region, and not just in a general one-size-fits-all policy. All farms are also certified by an organisation called LEAF to ensure sustainability and carbon, water and environmentally farming practices are carried out at all times. The farmer benefit from this practice, or this business plan, is that farmers are paid a premium price for the oats based on a price above the market price at sale. Now, although initially this was a family business, Jordans are now part of a multinational company and are effectively one of their brands. But all oats going into their products still satisfy this environmental requirement, and it is audited. So it's an example of the way that these sort of FAB practices can become augmented into common practice. The third business plan is one just recently redeveloped called Wild Farmed. The practices that are supported by this are reduced tillage, mixed crops rotation, cover crops, reduction in the use of plant protection products, and semi-natural landscape elements to an extent. There's also the potential for agroforestry to be part of this system. Specific protocols, and there are standards here that have to be complied with in order to be able to sell into the marketplace. All cash crops sown with either a pulse or an annual perennial companions. This whole principle started in the south of France, but is based around the pasture cropping system and is incorporating intercropping. Requirement to minimize bare soil, specifically over winter cover crops in advance of spring drilling and relatively early drilling of crops. Any fertilizer applied must be based on needs, solely based on plant sap analysis and leaf testing, and a maximum of 800 kilograms of nitrogen per hectare to be applied. There is no insecticide, herbicide or fungicide to be applied to the crops, even though this is not an organic specific system. There's also a requirement to integrate livestock into the cropping system at least once every 3 years within the rotation. For the farmer, The contract is based around the annual production from a contracted area. Payment is based on a premium price over the market price at harvest, or based on a fixed price at the start of the season, so you know what you are going to be paid for your crops. In future, the price will also be determined by accounting for the flour price as well, so potentially taking some of the benefit from the company for the advanced sales that they're making. The company will buy all crops when grown, so including the intercrop or bicrop mixes, and they will separate and sell them and pay a price based on the combined crops sold. This one system is suitable for organic and conventional farmers, and both farmers of both types are involved in growing for this company. All products will be sold under the Wild Farm brand in supermarkets such as Marks and Spencer's in the UK.
Okay, and so to wrap up, Ellen, I think you will present your work done in communication.
I just wanted to share you this infographics Katrina and I made about these business models. We made one for every business model. This is like the overall look. This one is about the brewery Ina just presented. I will zoom in a little bit more. So in each infographic, we basically explain the goal of the business model, and we also connect it to the FAB measure that is used in the business model. Like in this one, it's crop rotation. We try to make it as visual as possible. So you can just have a look at the infographic and learn more about the business model. I will show you another one. This one is about the flour strips and grain production. And the third one I will show you is the business case from France about warming swimming pools with hedgerow management, the wood of the hedgerows. And the goal of these infographics is to use them in further communication. So eventually they will also appear on our website of fabulousfarmers.eu, and also on our final conference in the end of September. These infographics will definitely will be displayed.